This is Prophetess Miranda, and I'm so excited to present to you Women Arise, a special edition entitled Left at the Altar. Today, I have a very special guest, Natasha Tyler, that's going to share her story today. And you want to get you a glass of water, something to drink, get a pen, and get ready to walk along with us because deliverance is at your door. Today we're going to talk about her story, about how she was left at the altar, but God is an amazing God and he has such wonderful miracles for his children. So I want you to prepare. Natasha, I'm so happy to have you with me today.
And I'm excited to be here today to share this story.
Yes. You know, I believe that God has anointed us to be able to help people and bring them out of bondage. You know, there's so many things in life that happens that sometimes you would never talk about. Someone would never disclose them. But whenever you keep something housed on the inside of you, it's not good because it begins to hurt you, begin to bring ailments in your body, and it causes diseases and things of that nature. But today, Natasha has a dynamic story, and we're not going to delay any longer. Let her begin to share the wondrous works of God left at the altar. So let's talk about the beginning of this relationship and how this began. Why don't you just start us off and tell us how you met this person?
Well, I was working at Walmart. At the time, I was a single parent. If I look back at it now, I would say that I was really lonely, just going through a lot of the kids having trouble in school and financial issues and things of that nature. I was praying and I was an intercessor, but I still had a deep loneliness that I couldn't really explain, and no one around me could explain it as well. So I was working at Walmart at the time, and this gentleman, he had came into Walmart several times before, made eye contact, but he never said anything to me. So this last time, it was like the third time he came in, he came up and he told me he had been watching me for a while, and he gave me his number. He was real well dressed, had a suit on, very attractive.
Okay.
And I just kind of looked at him and I didn't say anything. So I didn't call him the first time. I was like, well, he's been coming here all this time, and finally he decides to come and talk to me, but I wasn't sure if I should call.
Well, let me ask you this. Where was your spiritual level at this time, at this part of your life? Give me some type of observation of where you were in spiritual realm at that point.
I was an intercessor. I was working in the church, so to speak, but I say that I was in a very religious environment because I did church, but I had a lot of struggles that no one talked about on the Sunday morning pulpit.
So you would say that you were not in the fullness of God.
I was not in the fullness.
Right, but you knew God, knew his power, but not in the fullness.
I thought I was.
I understand. I fully understand. Yes.
I was in the fullness.
For those of you that did not watch the prelude to this, Exposing the Spirit of Delusion, you'll understand that statement. Go watch it, okay? All right, you can proceed on.
So finally he came back again. So this is his fourth time, and he said, "You never called me." And then I said, "I'll call you tonight." It was like his persistence.
Which is so much like the enemy.
Yes.
He persists until he bulldozed the door down.
Yes.
He don't stop.
Yes. I think it was a luring mechanism to lure me in. Because, my mind being, young and at this time, and when I say young, not in age, but immature in the mind, I was kind of like, oh my God, he's pursuing me. It was kind of like he keep coming back. He's not letting go.
Oh.
So then finally I called him. And from that moment on, we began to talk over the phone. Instantly, I began to share intimate things with him. Oh. He had such a common nature.
Tell me about him. What did he do for a living? Or tell me about his life.
He was actually assistant pastor of a church. That's when I told you, well dressed with the suit. I found this out the first time we spoke. He was assistant pastor at the church, could sing real well, could preach real well, had no children, was raised by his grandmother. I later met her. And I found out that I actually was friends with his sister. because he always lived in another country, in another state. So at this time, with us living where we lived at, I didn't know anything about him, but I knew her, and she never told me she had a brother. So I did find out that I was friends with his sister at the time.
So you all began to communicate on the phone.
Yes.
Okay, proceed.
So as we communicated on the phone, I began to share intimate things with him. And I can remember on the first date, I would say this was my first chick with the Holy Ghost, but I ignored it. Because when I got in the car, I had already told him I struggled in the sexual area, and I was waiting on my husband. So I shared that with him, that I wasn't having sex before marriage.
So you gave keys to the enemy.
Gave him keys.
And he used the keys.
He used the keys.
Wow. Okay. Did he share anything about his life and his plans, or did he make commitments?
His plan was we would get married, not right off the bat. We had talked for a while before we talked marriage, but he was the one that brought up marriage, that he was ready to settle down, was okay that I had, had my children. He didn't want any more kids. And so that first night on that first date, I remember I was getting out the car to leave, and he kissed me in the mouth. And I jumped and I said, why would you do that? Because I felt like I had just told him months prior, hey, this is the area I struggle in. I knew that kissing someone in the mouth would ignite other things.
For sure.
So I was kind of like, what are you doing?
And we first date?
No, this wasn't I don't think this was the first date, because we talked over the phone for a long time before we actually went on a date.
Like a matter of months? Or?
Yeah, for a matter of months. I'm saying a long time, but the matter of months.
But we still don't know you.
I don't know him.
Absolutely.
Exactly. But he did kiss me, and I jumped back and asked him why. And he said, well, I didn't think anything was wrong. We've been talking on the phone. I'm like, yeah, we've been talking on the phone, but I told you this was an area that I was saving. And so I felt so strange when I got out the car. Chalked it up to I was being over.
That was the second.
Yes, it was. I was like, I'm just being over. This is a man of God. If I shared this with him, he, wouldn't use that against me. Maybe it's all in my head. So at that point, I thought, hey, you're too over. So he didn't pursue it at that time. So then he met my mom. And that was very, very interesting at the time.
Okay.
So my mom met him, and he talked for about an hour, stayed over. We ate and everything, and he left. And so I said, Mom, what do you think? She said, he dressed real nice. And I just looked. I said, okay. She said, he looks nice. So I kept saying, like, are you going to say anything else? She wouldn't say anything else.
That was another clue.
That was a clue.
That was a clue.
But let me tell you how cunning the enemy is. At the time, my mom wasn't married. And I remember getting out the door, and a voice says so clearly, she's just mad because she don't have anybody, and she want you to die old and not married like her.
Oh, wow.
And I got in the car. I bought that lie, and that's the lie I held on to. She's coming against it because she don't want me to be happy because she's not happy.
So when you don't know God in the fullness, you don't know the different voices that come. So that was a strategy plan. Now, if I had to prophetically tell you what I hear, it was to put you in bondage, and it was to come after the anointing upon your life. Because what happened, relationships, when you enter wrong relationships, it eats up years of your life. So, you're stuck with someone, and then you find these things out later, the humiliation. Oh, my goodness. Continue.
Oh, my God. You're about to bring tears to my eyes, because the enemy is so strategic of how he do things. Because I was so lonely at the time. He fit the bill of being an assistant pastor. He was able to come in and show me this whole other side of him being a man of God. He talked the Bible. For as I knew it up to that point of that kiss, he was walking the word. But a little further down the road, I made the mistake of letting him come to my house. Now looking back at that was the first big mistake I made, because as long as I kept him out of my house and we only talked over the phone and went out to eat and things of that nature, him coming to my mom's house, it was fine.
Enough time to really begin to get to know him.
Yes.
And to see if God would reveal some things.
Yes.
So close proximity
Yes.
and breaking the rules of coming to the house. You know, I'm thinking about my 3-year dating plan.
Yes, I am too.
If I knew you then,
Yes,
I would have
ma'am.
said, young lady, get my 3-year dating plan.
Yes.
That's what you need to do. But go on.
I wish I had it.
Yeah, I understand.
Because that was like one of the biggest mistakes. Because at this point, I got so comfortable with him. So we did start having sex. So let me tell you the religious mindset. Oh, well, he's your husband.
That's that other voice.
He's your husband. It shouldn't be a big deal. Y'all going to get married eventually. Like, it's okay. Then he's the pastor, and it's okay for him. So I started battling a lot. Because the conviction was major, but I got so sunken into
And the
it.
conviction is God.
Yes.
That was God showing up.
Yes.
You know, there's a young woman probably looking at us today, and she's probably saying, well, why did God let that happen? And he was a pastor, and it's probably then happened to her. But what she doesn't understand, that conviction, that uncomfortableness, that was God. That was God showing up in you, making you feel weird and interesting enough to say, oh, hold up, let me back. Wait. No. But if the level of healing or deliverance had not come and wasn't greater than the weakness, it overtook. Yes.
It overtook me. And on top of overtaking me, I watched the hand of the enemy. It's almost like I was, as people would say, out of body experience. It was like I was on the sidelines watching this happen. But I feel like the need for love that I had so deep in from my childhood things, it overshadowed even the voice of God.
Wow. That's because the root of the word was not deep enough.
Yes.
And this is the reason why inner healing and deliverance is a real thing. Because if you don't get deliverance or start working on the inner healing process of those traumas, guess what happens? Every voice is catered to the pain in you. You don't even hear the voice of God. You think you hear it. You hear it only if it's catered to the inside of you.
That's amazing.
Yes. So proceed on.
So as time went on, we were dating. We were still having sex. I remember he came to me and sat me down one day at my house, and he told me he found out he had prostate cancer. Like, this blew my mind. I was like, oh, my God. Like, what are we going to do? What are they saying? At the time, I wasn't in the medical field, so I only went by, of course, what he was telling me. And so he was telling me he was going back and forth with the doctor, but it was such a private thing that he didn't want me to go to the doctor with him. So I kind of just was there with him, watching him. It was times that he didn't eat as much, and it was times that he laid around a good bit as well. But I didn't really know the signs to look to say, is this even true? I just went by what he told me.
But I am to the opinion, correct, that your mother is a nurse.
Yes.
Is that right?
I'm about to tell you about that part.
And was there a ring? Or were we engaged?
It was a receipt for a ring, but not an actual physical ring.
Oh.
Yes. He brought I told my mom about the cancer. My mom started telling me things to look at. She said, well, look for this, look for this, look for that. And some of the things were there, like I say, the tiredness and not eating as much and different things of that nature. But like I said, he wasn't in a stage where he needed what they would say chemo or radiation or no type of medications. He was just trying to go through it, and they was taking him back and forth and said they would remove it and things like that. So I remember one time he was going to go to the doctor, and he said that his deductible wasn't met for his insurance, and he was short $500. So I had just got my school money. So once again, oh, you're going to be with him? This is going to be your husband. You can give him that money. Y'all finna be a team. The voices was major in this season in my life.
Wow.
Major.
Wow.
So I gave him the $500, went on, didn't think anything else of it. Time went on. I finally met his grandmother. I said they live in a different part of the state. I went and met her, and she talked to me, never let on like something was going on. So everything seemed really legit. So one day I get a phone call from my mom, and she said, it has a girl that works at this place we used to work at, and she's telling everyone that the guy that you're with told her that he was going to marry her and then didn't. And I was like, what? And she said, yeah. And so I said, well, give her my number. Now, mind you, back there, I was saved. I still needed a lot of deliverance because I was like, well, who she thinks she is trying to call my mom? I was just tell her to call me. So she called and she told me what happened with him and her, that she was dating him and he didn't marry her. She didn't get into too many details. She said she was just warning me that the same thing didn't happen to me. So immediately I called him and told him the girl's name and what was going on. He said that didn't happen that way. You're going to believe her over me. So then I also called his sister because we were friends. And I was like, this girl called me. She told me XYZ. And she said the same thing. She said that didn't happen that way. It was a lot that happened to why he didn't marry her. And it wasn't all on him. And she just kind of left it open. So then I just chalked it up to, hey, maybe this girl is lying and people coming out the woodwork. And he kind of mentioned, well, you got to know who I am. I am an assistant pastor and people will say different things, but it's no truth in it. So I kind of kept pushing past everything. I remember one day my mom called me out the blue and she said, I'll do anything for my grandkids. She said, but if you need anything, she said, you get it from him. I'm not helping you anymore. It was like the weirdest conversation. Nothing had happened prior. It's like she woke up and just told me this one morning. I'm just like, oh my God. And so that reinforced what the enemy had originally told me.
Yes.
That the
voices start connecting.
Yes. So this does make sense. She really don't want to see you happy because she's not happy and she's just coming against him and she just don't want to help you now. And I mean, it was like a real thing. Like this was a world that undoubtedly only I was living in. So as time went on, we got closer and closer to the wedding. My mom was like, I'll buy your dress, but I'm tired. I worked last night, and I just don't feel like going. But she gave me a credit card. So at the time, me and my best friend, we went. I cried all the way there. Even while I was trying the dress on, I cried. Because I felt like this is one of the most important days of my life, and my mom is not here to share with me. Mm-hmm. So I tried it on. I got the dress. I came home. I remember trying it on for my mom, and she just, in her face, she just looked like it's pretty, but it looked like she was looking through me when I tried it on, but she never said anything. She was like, oh, it's nice. So we went on. We started planning the wedding. I started planning the wedding. He was like, okay, this day is okay.
So did you have the ring yet?
Still didn't have the ring. Just had the receipt. Just the receipt to the ring. But I'm planning going forward because remember, he has cancer, so he's not able to work at this time. He's just doing, being an assistant pastor, and they giving him a little something every month. Shortly after that, I went to a church service with him. Signs put beyond signs now that I'm looking back at it. And I remember at the time, I wasn't at a church that was in the fullness, didn't know a lot about the prophetic or gifts or laying on hands for that matter, because I didn't see a lot of slaying in the spirit where I was going to church at. So we went to a church service. He asked me to sing before he got up to speak. And I sung. But then after I sung, he got up and sung another 30 minutes after me. And it was still, again, it was like a check. Like, I don't understand. Like, I couldn't pull it together what was really going on. But I sensed something was off. So at the end of the service, they had an altar call. He asked me to come up, and I was just standing there with just holding my arms open like they normally do for people to come to the altar. And as I stood there, he was on the other side, and all of a sudden, when he saw people coming around me, which I was just standing there, he ran over on the other side of the church. And I was just like, I don't understand. Like, I felt like it was a tug of war. But I didn't understand the why at the time to why this was even happening. But I remember getting in the car, just feeling strange and kind of asking him, well, what happened? And he was like, what are you talking about? Like it was all in my head. But all along, that was giftings. That was discernment. That was things that the Lord was trying to show me. But the enemy kept tainting it to make me believe that it was something I was looking at totally wrong. So I remember going home, and just like I said, it was several different things that happened. But leading up closer to the wedding, he sits me down again at the house, and he says, my cancer has spread it. And I just remember sitting at that house, and I was like, what? Like, does this mean you're going to die? Like, I just went to asking all these questions, and he was just kind of like, well, almost like it's new information to me. I can't process it, so I don't know how to help you process it in so many words. So I was like, I just need some time. So I remember my mom had my kids, and I went to Mississippi by myself, and I really cried out to the Lord because I said, I don't understand. And I prayed, and when I got up, of course, I'm going to tell you how cunning, people don't understand how cunning the enemy is because he's been there since the beginning of time. So it would look so much like God, but it'll be the devil the entire time. I remember someone came and gave me a word when I was over there. I was at a Piccadilly, and the lady walked up to me. She was the waitress, and she started telling me how everything in my life was going to work out and that I didn't have to stress about anything, that God had a plan for my life, and that whatever I was worried about, to leave it alone because God had already, he had it, and it was going to be well. And so I go back and I'm like, well, that's the word I need. It's going to be well. I'm going to go back and I'm going to stand by his side. Because that's what if I got breast cancer today or tomorrow, I won't want my husband or my fiance to just walk and leave me by myself.
But let me give you a prophetic word of wisdom. Okay. You do know you heard that word out of delusion, right? Because listening to that word did not mean that was going to be well. She said your life would be well. Oh my goodness. You know, I really believe we're going to help some people today. Have you mixed words? Have you put what you want to hear? God gave a word, but you put your connotations and you're blaming that prophet. I remember speaking a prophetic word to a woman, and the Lord told me, he said that her family was literally leading her in delusion because she wanted to so be married like her mom and her dad, to the point she would think of it every day. And little did she know, that wasn't the plan of God for her. And she really supposed to be doing missionary work and doing many other things. But her mind is so geared upon marriage because she's looking at the biological clock. She's looking at her watch saying, oh, but it's time. It's an amazing how delusion can deal with your emotions and how they can connect with the hand of the enemy. Is the enemy connecting with you? Are you sure you're living based on the word of God? Are you in true word? Because God's not going to have you to sin to obey him. I remember one woman telling me, she said her husband wanted her to go to some swingers clubs or something. And she said, well, I got to protect my covenant. I said, sweetie, your covenant has been diced and fried and chopped up in 99 pieces because God is not going to have you to sin, to go in Sodom and Gomorrah to obey a covenant of his. That ain't even a covenant of his. Oh my goodness, to watch it. Oh no. So it's amazing how the enemy twists things, isn't it?
Yes. Delusion would have you to take even the word of God and a word from God and twist it to fit your situation. It's a lying spirit. Yes,
that's
ma'am.
A lying spirit.
Yes, ma'am.
My goodness. Proceed.
So I finally got back and say, hey, I'm going to stand by your side. You don't have to worry about it. He was like, well, I don't really want to put this much stress on you because now I have all of this going on. You have your children, you have school. So all along, he's really telling me, but I'm going to push forward. Because one thing kept coming up in me was everybody's going to find out. You're going to be embarrassed. You live in a small town. How you going to deal with the embarrassment of it or the shame of it. So just go ahead and push through it and deal with it on the other side of it. That's what I was feeling on the inside. So fast forward, the Tuesday before the wedding. Now, mind you, I have the dress. We have the cake ordered. I had spoke with my dad. I spoke with my best friend.
And they're out of town, correct?
They're out of state.
So they were flying in.
They was coming in.
So they knew all the plans.
Yes. They knew the date. The plans was all me. Yeah, the plans was me, but they knew the date, of course.
Anything with his family? Did his family, were they a part of this?
I talked to his mom. I talked to his sister, but he dealt with his family and I dealt with mine. But they did know about the wedding because I remember talking to his sister and everything. The Tuesday before, I remember sitting in my house, and it was as if he was already at the front door, but his truck, he had a loud truck with those pipes. I started hearing the pipes like 2 hours before he even made it to the house. Like, I could just hear it. I had such an uneasiness. Everything was just felt. The whole day was strange. I woke up feeling just strange, but I could not sense what it was. But I felt the uneasiness, and I could hear the pipes of his truck. But he didn't come till 2 hours later.
Spirit of the Lord.
Yes, but I had no clue what to do with that. I wasn't in the ministry
And
that really
this
moved in
is
gifts
the
as well.
Tuesday before the Saturday wedding.
Before the wedding.
Wow.
Mind you, that Sunday before, he had came to the church. At the church I was attending, was in the pulpit, spoke, whole nine, met my pastor, everything. So they knew as well.
So you really, really thought this was God.
Mm-hmm. My pastor met him. He didn't tell me he saw anything. I mean, looking back at it, I can see why. But at the time, he didn't say anything.
With
either.
no ring.
With no ring. So the Tuesday before the wedding.
No merging. No where we going to live, what.
Well, we were going to live with me. I had the house. So, yeah, we were living with me.
You had my 3-year dating plan. Go to freshmanaschool.com or go to prophetessmiranda.com and click my online classes, and there's going to be a 3-year dating plan that walk you through with PDFs and checklists, and oh my goodness, go to the dating plan.
Please go get the plan. So I remember he came in, and normally when he come in, he would do this thing where if I was on the bed or reading or writing, he would jump over the bed and hug me. But when he came in, I had a chair by the door. He had never did this. He walked in, and when he sat in that chair, it's like my heart just almost stopped. Like I felt frozen. It's the only way I can explain it. And he was like, I've been thinking about this, and I don't know how to tell you this, but I just need to go ahead and say it. I just don't want to put all this on you. I just think we should hold everything off. So still didn't say we're not getting married. I just feel like we need to hold off till a little while longer. And I'm like, it's Saturday. That's all I could say. It's Saturday. I think we should hold off on it. Just let's give this some time. And I just remember I was sitting in the bed, and I felt the depression fall on me in that moment. Like, I can't explain it. At the time, I couldn't explain it. But like I said, with the eyes that I have now, like instantly a spirit of depression attached itself to me. I was frozen. And I couldn't say nothing back. And I remember just saying, but why? And all he just kept saying was the same thing. And I was, of course, got upset, asked him to leave. So that Saturday passed. I didn't go to church that Sunday. I went to church that next week. And I can remember the fear that came because I didn't want to have to explain to no one why I wasn't coming back with a full husband ring and had been on a honeymoon. Like, I didn't even want to. So I remember even coming to the church, sitting to the back. Like, I was so depressed. I went to church Sunday after Sunday. A couple people asked me, and I just said I didn't get married. And that was kind of it. I didn't go into anything. I started pulling away from things I was doing in the church. Like, I just went into a place.
Wow.
Because I couldn't fully understand what happened and why it was happening. But we were still dating.
So wait, you mean...
Yes.
So even when he called it off,
he
was still visiting? And
yeah, he said we wasn't calling it off. We were going to wait, I guess, to let him get through the whole process with the cancer. So we was holding off. So a little time passed, and like I told you, I had gift and I was in church, but I did have a fighting demon in me at the time.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yes. So one day, I asked him real nicely. I said, those $500 that I gave you, I want my money back. Why would you ask me about the money? We are together. Why do you keep pressing me about the money? As the people would say, I blanked out.
So at that point, so you asked for the money back because you began to be speculating.
Yes.
That so your mother's season warnings and signs and symptoms was not coming to play. Wow.
None of that was coming to play. I never could go to the doctor. I would ask his sister, and his sister say, well, he's very private. He's not even letting us into it.
So do you think the sister was going somewhere? Because the more I listen to you...
All I can think is she had no idea what he really was doing. I don't think she knew the fullness of it because she's a very outspoken person. And I could see her just saying, girl, my brother's, XYZ, don't waste your time. But she never did. Even when it got to the end of it, it was just like, it just disappeared. It was the weirdest thing. It was like, this was going on for so long. I asked for the money. We had the argument. And it was just like over. Like, it wasn't less work. It was kind of just like over, like after a conversation. Like, I remember cutting him off in my phone. Like, it had to be God, to be honest with you.
Wow.
Because I remember just cutting him off like we were never anything. But I went into the deep depression. And a few months after that, he comes in the store with another woman.
So wait, let's go back to the part when you clicked out. Exactly.
Oh, I didn't think you wanted to talk about
Oh yes,
that.
I think I need the full detail. I think our audience deserves the full-fledged, because we need to make sure, we're helping somebody.
I was not Minister Tyler at the time.
Believe it or not,
say that.
there are hundreds and thousands of women that's going to see this message, and they're hiding behind the lie. They're giving the money, he don't have a job, and on and on and on. Women, it's time to arise to a place of holiness and truth. So tell us the details.
Oh, God.
So he comes in to see you.
And I'm sweeping at the time with a nice broom, just cleaning up my house. And when I kept asking for my money, and he pretty much told me that we were together, and why do I keep asking him for money? All I can remember is he was going down the steps, and I had the broom.
What happened?
And it was not good. Because I got him out my door. Like, you need to get out the door. Like, if I have to get you out the door, that's what I'm going to do. So I got him out my door.
Well, let me just make a declaration that I didn't know her at that point. She was not Minister Tyler. She was not the woman of God, nor my assistant. Let me just say that at that point. So how did he get down the stairs?
I assisted him down the stairs, yeah. Because I asked him to leave nicely. And at that point, I was really waking up out of the delusion.
You and the broom.
Me and the broom.
You and the broom.
We assisted him
I'm
out the
clarifying this, that her and the broom helped.
We just assisted him down because I felt like at this point, I was in such a place. I was so embarrassed. I was so hurt. I was so broken. And I really was just even broken with, you're going to use this title as assistant pastor. Do all of this thing, have no conviction and no regard for nobody. My children, nobody. So at that point, I was like, I want my money back, and I just need you to leave. But he still was trying to say, we're together. What's the problem? Like, I was the crazy
So at
one.
this point, did you know that could possibly be another woman? Or in your healed state, what was the scenario of this? Was this just literally a spiritual attack to literally wound you deeper?
To wound me deeper. And I truly believe it wasn't his first time. I do believe.
So the young woman, you believe?
I do believe it was, my story and her story might not have been exact, but it definitely paralleled. He probably was with me a lot longer. I probably was seen with him the way, because they almost act like she was somebody kind of like on the side back then, before me. But I don't even know if, to this day, I don't know if the cancer was even real, to be honest with you. And look at me, I'm ready to, do chicken dinners to support him to go through this process.
Oh, wow. Tell me about the actual day after that, the day that was supposed to be the wedding.
The depression hit me that Tuesday before, and I just was never the same. I am even recalled to recently, about 5 or 6 months ago, me and my daughter was talking, and I didn't realize, because you don't realize as parents how much your kids see and how much they take on and how they will walk so much in your footsteps. But when they get older and they begin to share things with you, it's going to break you. So my first ploy would be to walk that life in front of them in such a way that you walk every detail, you be honest with them, you be truthful with them, you apologize to them, Even if you did it before you knew Christ, go back and get it right. Because one thing she told me, she was going through something in her relationship, and she say, "Oh, I'll never be in that place, because I remember when you were so depressed, we pushed food under the door to get
Oh,
you to
wow.
eat."
Oh, wow.
And
So
I had literally blocked that out.
you know, it's so often that I minister to, and I do family sessions, and sometimes and I have a sort of like a system that I do where I'll talk to the parents and I'll talk to the children, and then I'll talk to them together, and then I'll do individual sessions with the children. You would be amazed at what the parents say happened, and not that they're lying, it's just their perception.
Exactly.
The children will say, "Oh, I don't remember." The parents will start telling me, "Oh, I did this, I sacrificed this to buy them this." And the children will be, "That's not the way I remember it. I remember this stuff." And it's two whole different things. So the wedding did not happen.
The wedding did not happen. And 2 to 3 months later, I was working at Walmart because I was a department manager at the time. He walks in with another woman, and he smirks and speaks.
Wow.
So fast forward about 2 weeks. After that, me and my kids are in the car. My oldest son spots him first with the woman, and they all in the parking lot like something you see on the movie, like he actually throwing her up in the air and like hugging her and all this kind of stuff. So I have to literally get out of my seat and sit on my son because this is just crazy. So come to find out, he had married a whole nother woman. He couldn't work because of the cancer, but he had got a cement company, had built a house, and all of this stuff.
Oh, wow.
3 months later.
Oh, wow.
So that definitely took me to a headspace. But the first voice that came up was, what was wrong with me?
Oh, wow. No, he was a pro at this. This was not the first or the second time. So this woman was totally it's a whole new set of persons.
She was from a different area.
So it sounds like there was multiples going on.
Probably all at the same time. Now that if I had to really look back at it,
As you look at
it probably was at the same time.
At any point, was there any conviction upon him? I understand that he's assistant pastor, and at some place he knows God in some form. Was there any conviction at any point in his life?
Probably about 7 to 8 months later, after he lost everything, he came back to apologize.
He lost.
He lost the wife, the company, everything. Then he came back to apologize. And he knew that all of that was happening, he said, because of me.
So all things do work together for good, don't they?
They do.
Isn't it wonderful that you didn't help him any further down further down the stairs?
Praise the Lord.
Yes, yes. Oh my goodness. Tell me about that apology.
He just pretty much said that he was sorry for everything that he did, and he had a lot of challenges, which, of course, the town that I lived in was very small. So all his challenges, everybody knew about him because everybody knew everything. It was so small. And that he was sorry for what he did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was sorry.
Did he at any point realize that what he was going through was because of what he did with you?
I guess when he said he was, the challenges he was going through was because of what he did to me.
Oh, wow.
Is him saying, hey, like,
well,
he didn't tell me what the challenges
I have to
was.
applaud. I sound like there were a lot of challenges, right?
They were.
But I do have to applaud him for that. My goodness. So now I understand all the more that why your life and your wedding was so special.
Yes.
Boy, God knows what he does,
Yes,
right?
he does.
Well, why don't you tell them about that? Because I'm sure they have a lot of questions, and you're well to email us. We have a lot of similar stories. Our lives parallel a lot. But this was one that was before I knew you. I just know when I remember seeing you in the service, I saw the glory, and periodically the Lord reminds me of that. I don't quite know why, but he often reminds me of that. Like, I think I could probably go to your closet and find that skirt and dress because I remember it to that point. And I just didn't understand. He said not to say anything to you, that I would meet you later and that it would be for a reason. Yeah. and I don't know how many months it was later, maybe a year or so, maybe?
A little over a year, maybe 2.
Maybe 2 years
Yeah,
later.
it had to be, because I was in another relationship.
Yeah, probably like 2 years later. Yeah. And I remember hearing her in the background, and I was talking to another one of my daughters of the heart, and I heard the voice, and she said, "Oh, she's here." I was like, "She is," and I knew then that was a divine connection of, But sometimes, isn't it amazing how you really need to be obedient?
Yes.
Because he said not to say anything to you at that time, nothing. He said not to say anything. He said it was an appointed time and it had purpose to it. My goodness. So there's some women that are looking at us today. As much humor as you see in this, there's just as much tragedy. God spared her and made it work for good. And, at some point we'll come back with part 2 and we'll tell you about her miracle wedding for her husband now, and that her husband and I basically planned her wedding, and her mother, and got her down the aisle, which was the word of the Lord that the Lord gave me when I talked to you on the phone. I said, I'm here to help you get down the aisle. Now, mind you, I don't know the story that you just heard. I didn't know that. I only know he said, tell her you're going to help her get down the aisle. I thought that was some type of spiritual prophetic senses or something like that. I'm like, I wonder what does that mean? But now I fully understand what it means. But there's a woman that's looking at us, and her tragedy is still in her heart. It's affecting her body, her weight, her mind, her education. Yeah. She's become another person because of this. And she did not have a deep relationship with God and may not know the call upon her life. So why don't you speak to that woman today? Let's pull her out of the pit.
First, I want to say this one thing to you, that God is enough. God is enough and you are enough. You have to stand on every promise he ever gave you, even if it don't seem like it's coming to pass. Every promise that he ever gave me, I am walking in those promises today. You have to trust God no matter how hard it get. I know that you get lonely. I know it's nice that you feel like you need a physical touch. But I can remember a night I was so lonely, and I called my mentor. At the time, it was my Prophetess Miranda. And I was so lonely. And when I picked the phone up, she began to pray. And it was like a blanket came out of the ceiling and just laid on me. It was my first time ever feeling God's liquid love. And it warmed me in such a way. If you really, in those times when you're lonely and you feel like you cannot make it, ask God to pour that liquid love on you, and I promise you, it's going to fill holes that not even a man can even feel on the inside of you. And I command now for you to come out of that depression. I command now for you to come out of those mind battles, that self-image that tell you you're not good enough, you're too fat, you're too black, you're too ugly, you'll never make it to the other side. I command now that the peace of God that surpasses all understanding will meet you right there where you at, and you will trust him like you've never trusted him before, because I hear him saying, have I not done it before? He said, I will do it again, says the Lord.
My goodness. I know you all have so many questions, and we're going to ask you to email me at contact@prophetessmiranda.com, and we're going to take a special segment just to answer your questions. We'll probably have to take 2 hours just to literally go through the emails, because there's so many of them. But there's a woman that's looking at us today, and you've cut your family off. This person has isolated you. They're in your bank account. They're dealt with your credit. There's another woman in another city. There's 2 more children. And you're walking in the spirit of delusion because of a trauma that happened to you. And you've had people to come to you to give you warning, and you pull it down because you didn't know how to deal with it. But I want you to know that the Lord God say today, God can bring you help. Today, the Lord can deliver you and bring you to a better place. Ohonehonde orebashe. See, it is so important that you know that God is your ultimate, not a man, not any man, even the right man, even the God man, even the God one that he's going to send. He still can't be put as an idol. Some of you all are really dealing with just childhood hurt, wounds and childhood hurt of things that was just unresolved, molestation, things you've never said to anyone. But today the Lord God says, come out. I will do a new thing in you, one that you cannot even believe. Jeremiah 33:3 says, call unto me, and I will answer thee and show thee great and mighty things that you know not of. Call unto him. I want you to know, Minister Tyler, that I truly appreciate your openness. I really, really, really do. But you know, at some point, we're going to actually do that 3-year dating plan. That 3-year dating plan was actually done for a very special daughter of the heart of mine, because her heart was just like, when is it going to happen? And she was so in a hurry. She was so anxious. And, you know, I don't quite know where she is at this point, but I did it for her because I wanted to give her the tools to know what to look for. Because the spirit of anxiousness, which brings delusion, which brings carnality and worldliness, but also brings you disheartened. And that disheartedness brings you to the spirit of unbelief. Before you know it, you will have there will be no touch from God. You'll get to the point, oh no, I'm not doing the God thing. This takes too long. And then you end up in a foreign country way away from God. But today I say, give your life to God. And there's a new thing that can happen with you. And today is your day of victory and change. Thank you so much for being a part. Left at the Altar, the story of Natasha Tyler. Women, arise. God has a new day for you. And today can be the beginning of your new day. Remember, go to my website, www.prophetessmiranda.com, or email us directly at contact@prophetessmiranda.com. God bless you and have a wonderful, wonderful day and life. God has more for you. The best is yet to come. God bless you.